more engaged, sharper, more confident.
Scriptures say that a student will be like their teacher.
How are you bringing that critical thinking and like the confidence?
How do I know I'm a good parent? A lot of times they say that our seventh graders do better than the second year law students they see doing the same sort of.
I can definitely tell a difference in the kids nowadays that are homeschooled versus not homeschooled. And you guys have brought up the fact that, they're zinging questions at you. They're not just listening, they're engaged. They're asking questions and it like pepperins in their intelligent questions. And I noticed it with Jeremy's kids, my producer, and pretty much everybody's kids. They just seem more engaged, sharper, more confident, and able to hold adult conversations. Like, it's impressive, man. It's impressive. And so I want to get into the fourth grade stuff, but I also want to get into how does that happen? How's that developed? How are you bringing that critical thinking and like the confidence to pepper an adult with questions into these kids?
A lot of it's just lifestyle development, like the intentionality behind the program from those, weekly presentations, teaching the kids how to do that, just having them be interested in life, having the parents that they look up to, asking them good questions, not letting them just, ask a question and not answer it, but actually go look it up if they don't know it, and teaching them to go ask other adults questions. I mean, that's the thing that I think homeschoolers do more, something that you can't get in private school, is you just, in public school and private school, you have one teacher, and that's the person that you go ask questions about. Mm-hmm. In homeschooling, like I mentioned earlier, like if you have a question about something, you go ask the scientist in your church, or you go find an expert that teaches that subject locally, or go find a local business owners that's doing that thing and go have a conversation with them. And so I think just that that level of intentional behavior that parents are developing with their kids is something
it's just interesting because in public school, when I went, it's probably even worse now. I mean, people are embarrassed to ask a question. They don't. You see it in adult rooms. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
They don't want to raise their hand or talk to you.
They don't want to, exactly. They don't want to raise the hand. They don't want to ask the question. They're embarrassed to ask the question. But what I notice about homeschool kids is they are not embarrassed to ask questions, and they can ask some pretty tough questions.
Well, I think classical education is all about learning to ask good questions. And so it's the exact opposite of a lecture-based education where you're just supposed to listen to some expert at the front of the room and write down everything you can and then regurgitate it. A classical education is all about learning to ask good questions, learning who the experts are, where the source materials are. And so the kids just naturally grow up in a situation where they're more inquisitive than other people, and they think they've been trained that that's a good thing to do versus... Right, if someone's lecturing and you stop, I didn't get that last thing. Can you repeat that? Right, that's an interruption in their space, and so that's frowned upon. Right, that's so it's the exact opposite. Just the mentality that homeschool parents have with education. Like, oh, the sun rises from the east to the west. Why is that? Oh, the ripples are forming on the ocean. Like, why is it low tide? Why is it high tide? And you're just asking kids questions all day to see what they know or what they think. And since you're mentoring them in that manner, that's the same way that they're going to grow up and go.
So I have a friend who's 20 years older than me that was one of my mentors, and she always reminds us that the scriptures say that a student will be like their teacher. And so if your teacher is somebody that you have just for a couple hours a week, and there's new ones the next year, you don't even get to fall in love and know what they think. And then today, with all the online education, she says, do parents want their children to be like a plastic box? Right? The homeschoolers that are intentional, they just spend the time with the children. So the children, that's their model. That's what they're going to be like. So if you're a curious parent, you're going to have curious kids. If you're not a curious parent, you might luck out and get some curious kids, but that's not going to be the intention that you have with them. So something else, though, is that...
I think you mentioned at the very beginning about how parents are nervous. Like, can I do this? Can I do that? And can I do a good job? And I think that motivates them and propels them to do a good job. Like, how do I know I'm a good parent? Well, you care.
That's already.
Like the fact that you ask that question indicates that you are on a pathway to being a good parent. And so, how do I know how can I educate my kids? Just the fact that you have that question or are willing to ask it means that you're got a really good chance of doing a really good job.
Well, you guys have my wife fully on board, and the interview is not even over yet. So, and really, I mean, me too. But let's, unless something drastic changes in the last half of this interview here, but let's pick up at the fourth grade level.
Yeah, so in fourth grade, we have what's called our Essentials program, and the Essentials of the English language, and that's when we start teaching them how to write and how to write well. And we use this program by Andrew Pudewa called IEW, and it really just, again, it's a model. So we take some of the best writings through history and start having our fourth graders and fifth graders and sixth graders modeling it. And then at the end of the year, they do what's called Faces of History, where they pick a character out of history and write a 3-page or 3-paragraph or longer, depending on the age group, presentation on them. And then at the end of the year, we would do a big capstone, is what we call them in classical conversations, where they present their faces of history. And so they go, and, you've got 15 kids, 8 to 15 kids, depending on how many classrooms you have of that, and they're all presenting on different historical people. And so it's a very intentional writing program is really what Essentials is about.
And the Faces of History is the audience is supposed to guess who they are based on the presentation. So they can't say the name of who they are. So it gives them a little bit of a, like, will they trick the parents or won't they trick the parents? Kind of.
And so the audience asks the student questions, and the audience is the parents.
The audience is the parents and grandparents, people like that. And so they'll go and they'll, if they're talking about, George Washington, they'll probably, dress up and be like, I was a general in the war, I got shot 6 times, or, all those details, and, tell about some facts and some stories. And then, they'll say, all right, who do you think I am at the end? And then the parents will guess. So we're practicing their presentation skills, practicing having them look people in the eye, practicing their stage presence. And so they'll do that 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, along with, diving deeper into that memory work that they're doing. And then they'll head off into the challenge program, which is, as my mom was describing earlier, those 6 challenges where we put all the building blocks together for leadership and go back through history and read, who struggled with what were those things going on, reading about Booker T. Washington, and learning about slavery, the truth about that stuff, not some woke version and not some whitewashed version, but what was actually going on in people's minds. Doing each year has a special event at the end of it, so they do things like Challenge A's, they do a science fair, so that's a big focus, along with drawing the map from memory. Challenge B is mock trial, which they'll go and we have a case, person dies on a work site, so there's prosecutors, defenders, witnesses, judges, and we typically have those in courtrooms with real judges. A lot of times they say that our 7th graders do better than the 2nd-year law students they see doing the same sort of presentations.
You can go see one. So if you want to find out where the challenge, because what happens, one challenge B and another challenge B from near zip codes will meet at the courthouse and try each other. Both will prosecute and both will defend. And the public's welcome to see that. And for me, like, the best story out of that was when I ran David's mock trial. The judge said, you know what? He was a juvenile district judge. And he said, I was going to quit being a judge. This was the end. I wasn't going to go do it anymore because all I hear is this horrible stuff from juveniles every single day. It's my job. And he said, I'm not going to quit now because I just met you 12 students and I know it can be better.
Wow.
So we hear those kind of things all the time. So to have the way that works is we do take a true case, and we've had it scripted. or not scripted, but research at kind of at the student level, and then the children write the script based on their roles, and they write it as a team, and then they meet this other team they've never met before, and they go against each other, and they wear suits and ties, and they speak really well, and they're all of 13 years old. So our expectations are just really high in those middle school years versus most school situations treat them middle school kind of as a waiting ground. They're not children who are fun at school. They aren't able to do what a high school student does. But we say, no, they are dialectic. They will ask questions. They will rise to the occasion. So let's give them occasions to rise to. And so through the essentials and challenge A and B, that's kind of the focus. And it's, as you can hear, it's a language and words and just getting their speaking skills sharpened.
Tell them about the other capstones and the challenge levels.
Sure. So challenge 1 is policy debate, which is you don't get to pick a side, and it's 2 on 2.
What age is this?
Huh?
What age is this policy debate?
14-year-olds.
14-year-olds debating policy.
And so the students pick the policy. The first time they ever debate, we give our tutors ideas and help with directing the children, and then after that, they could start picking what they want to debate on.
Where do they have a list to pick from, or do they just
so
look
it's
at
things
what's
like,
going on in
so it's
society?
so should the government fund the arts to
Death penalty,
abortion rights? I mean, there's heavy subjects that they can get into. So
Do you see excitement out of these kids to do this
not
stuff?
at first, but eventually, yeah.
and they have to learn to defend both sides. So if you're pro-death penalty, you have to learn how to defend anti-death penalty or removing it from the civil government's jurisdiction.
So the public's welcome to come watch that capstone event, and that's that Challenge 1 Freedomship level, and then Challenge 2 Choices. They end the year with
The poetry,
that's Challenge 3. What is Challenge 2?
the protocol.
Oh, Protocol. So at the end of Challenge 2, they go to Protocol, where they dress up in suits and ties, sometimes tux and gowns, and instead of having a prom, which would be more traditional or modern, they go to the opera or they go to some symphony orchestra. But it's called Protocol because beforehand we do instructions so that when they go to a very nice 5-course meal, the boys seat the girls and they know where the silverware goes and things like that. So that they get to, because Challenge 2 has a lot to do with art in our choices and how art reveals the choices of a culture. So we thought the capstone event should center around culture.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.